Good evening. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of October 9th. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council. The first item on this evening's agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is submission of minutes of the meeting of September 18th, item A1.
Motion to approve previous minutes.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Before we go into our next part of the meeting, which is our ordinance section, if I could have a motion to add to this agenda for discussion purposes only. Representation is here from Nature's Classroom, specifically the president of the KMS PTO. They talked to me about this last minute, and I'd like to add them to the agenda at the beginning if I can get a motion to that effect.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me speak tonight, even though I'm not on the agenda. I'm really short. My name is Amy Bratsos, and I am the new KMS PTO president. And for the last 20 years, the 7th graders at Kickapoo Middle School have gone on a field trip every November to a place called Nature's Classroom. It's a week-long field trip. They leave Monday morning, really early, and come back on Friday. And they spend that week out in nature. They leave their cell phones at home, their Chromebooks at home. There is no connection to the outside world. They are there with their teachers, with their classmates, with the staff of Nature's Classroom, learning, growing, bonding with their teachers, bonding with their classmates, taking classes. They can sign up for different science classes. They spend the day on hikes and going around the campfire. They spend hardly any time in their room. They're out all day long. So it's an amazing experience. If you ask anyone that has gone on it, it's something that they talk about for the rest of their time in Bristol Warren. And every kid leading up to 7th grade is looking forward to this field trip. So, field trip is scheduled for November 4th. Back in April, the former Rhode Island Commissioner of Education, Ken Wagner, made a change to the law stating that you can no longer ask parents to pay for field trips. So in September, this kind of came to our attention, and it is now in the hands of the PTO to raise the money. It costs $325 per student to go on the trip. If that's 250 students, that's about $80,000. So the PTO took that on with about 7 weeks' time to solve that problem. And we are closing that gap. We are making a lot of progress, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention and get the word out to the community about what we're doing to try to send these kids on this field trip. I contacted Nature's Classroom. They've given us some financial aid that brought the cost down about $15,000. We've reworked the bus system, so we've had a huge savings there. Parents, local businesses have donated, and so now we're only short about $20,000 with less than a month to go. So this month in October, we have various restaurants in our area in Bristol Warren that are supporting us, and if we go on certain nights, they're giving back. We're reaching out to businesses to sponsor a child at $325 a student to help defray those costs. And we have a GoFundMe page, and people can also just write checks straight to KMS PTO. But we are doing anything in our power to make this trip happen for our 243 7th graders this year.
Amy, how does someone contribute to the cause? How do they get the money to you?
They can mail it right to KMS, 525 Child Street, Warren, Rhode Island.
Amy, what was that address again?
525.
Thank you.
If you know a member of the PTO or the school, you could give it to them. I'm always around. You can give it to me. You can email me. You can donate through the GoFundMe page if that's an easier way than mailing a check. So
What would that be under? What would the GoFundMe page be under?
it is KMS Save Nature's Classroom, because that's what we're doing. We're saving it. And it's going to happen.
Mr.
For the
Chairman.
7th graders and for all future 7th graders. So we want to see it continue.
Say it again, please.
We want to see it continue. So this year we're saving it, and then we'll come up with a plan to save the future years so that we'll have a little more time to plan for the future. This was very short time to solve it for this year.
So I know that part of the hope for having this on the agenda, and it didn't make it to the agenda tonight, was to request a donation towards that gap. But because of the way that process works and all of that, this would have to be pushed to our October 30th meeting.
Yes.
And Mr. Clerk, if we could get that added to the October 30th meeting so we can discuss it at that point in regards to if this council believes it's appropriate to make a donation to that.
Thank you. And that'll be just a few days before the trip, and every little bit helps.
It sounds like an exciting trip, and it really teaches the kids a lot of teamwork and collaboration. And
It's amazing. I have a
sounds like
daughter
it's
that went last
nature.
year, and the first thing she said was, "Can I go back?"
Yeah.
When she got off that bus. There's kids crying because they're so sad to leave. So it really is an important trip that we don't want these kids to miss out on.
And they survive without their cell phones?
They do.
Wow,
It's amazing.
That 320. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. I was going to say that $325 per student is one heck of a bargain. It's almost hard to give anybody that kind of experience today with $325. That's $60 a day.
Right, and that's 3 meals a day, lodging, and Nature's Classroom staff. So you're really getting a lot for that. I mean, who can go away for a week for $325? So
Right.
it's a pretty good deal.
I just wanted to ask you, where is it that they can accommodate 250 kids at a
So there's various Nature's Classrooms throughout New England. The one that KMS is going to this year, they went last year to this location and really liked it, is Charlton, Massachusetts. So it's about an hour and 15 minutes away. They used to go to Connecticut, and that was about 3 hours away, and so they took coach buses because they needed the bathrooms. Now that we're closer, we can do first student, and that's a huge cost savings.
That's great.
So it's not too far away in case you get really, really homesick.
Well, my children did not, but my grandchildren have experience, and certainly
Yes.
very supportive of it.
Yes.
And I'm sure you can count on some help from us.
Yes. I think you have a 7th grade grandson this year, don't you?
Yes, I
Yes.
do. It's only one of 9.
Amy, would you make sure that you leave the best contact information here at Town Hall, so if somebody's watching the meeting and calls tomorrow and
Sure.
wants to contribute, they know how to get to you?
I can do that, sure.
Excellent. Mr. Clerk, do we require any action here besides this? Was this a receive and file, or just, no? Excellent.
I think you're fine. You're just referring it to that next meeting.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item C1. This is the second reading for adoption of Ordinance 2019-11. This is to amend the parking ordinance to allow for a no parking area on Bourne Street. Again, this is the second reading for adoption.
What's this council's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I had an opportunity to visit the area, and I've heard from one of the landlords in the area who's also very concerned about losing parking spaces there. The current property requesting the no parking, I can recall there was an 80-year-old lady who lived there, and she was able to get in and get out of that driveway. And her son, who lived there for a period of time, and had also a pickup truck, which was larger than the vehicle that I saw in the driveway Saturday, they were able to make it. So I think this would create a hardship for us to remove some of those parking spaces. So I would not be in favor of it.
I just wanted to concur with Tony. I'm getting a little concerned about these requests coming in. I understand why people are putting them in, but in some cases they're warranted. And in other cases, particularly in this particular neighborhood, it's very, very busy. And there's a lot of multifamily homes. Not everyone has driveways. And if the rate we're going to end up with almost no parking on any of these smaller side streets. And like this particular location, I did go down there as well, and we have another petition on for tonight as well. You know, that's right across the street. Like, think of where it is. There's people in and out at the DCYF. There's people in and out at the food pantry. There are many places, and there's not a lot of parking in that area. So I think it's like fairly busy area, and I don't agree that. You know, I do feel we need to really think about how we're going to handle these requests going forward, because I think just about probably every meeting, or maybe at least one every other meeting, we have at least one every other meeting, and if not more. And they seem to be more and more. I know people's vehicles getting bigger and bigger, and it might be harder to get out, but you can't just not have, if you're lucky enough to have a driveway in a downtown area, then you can't not have somebody park across from you either, you know, so.
Yeah.
I guess my position on some of these really congested areas, I think about like Franklin Street, where we extended the no parking over there by Franklin Court, the senior center, or the assisted living, and where the seniors are. And we did so because there was some pretty compelling public safety issues related to that. And right here, I'm not getting the sense that there's that type of compelling public safety issue that raises to a standard by which we should be putting a no parking spot in this area.
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues on this. I think it's a tight street. I think this could be worked out neighbor to neighbor. I know there weren't any objections, but I think, you know, a permanent no parking would, you know, maybe fix it for one case, but not all the time. So I agree with my colleagues on this one, on not to move forward.
Is the applicant here? Did they want to speak on this?
I'm against. You want me to go before?
Sure. Actually, before you do, Mr. Moniz, is the applicant here? No. Okay. Please.
Well, I want to explain.
I know who you are. We know who you are. But if you could tell everybody who
I
you
own the
are.
house in 27 Bond Street. It's right across from the house that people request that.
Yeah.
For 48 years, I owned the house. Never had a problem. I don't know, now this came up. And, of course, I don't agree to put a sign, no parking there.
Okay. So it sounds as though, I think my colleagues captured it well. I also had heard from neighbors, including you, Mr. Moniz, sharing their concerns about this. And I think it was captured well, too, is that each individual case has to be handled that way individually. And in this instance, it seemed like there was a lot of history of no need for it, or not a lot of need for it. So I agree with what was already been said. So what's this council's pleasure?
Excuse me, I make a motion to deny the request.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to deny the request. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Reject. We're just changing your word to reject.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Motion to reject?
Deny?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Second. Sorry.
Just curious as to what's the reason
Reject.
for that. Is that a legal word? No, seriously.
Well, you're not really denying an ordinance. You're
Oh.
not adopting it. Instead, you're
So we're rejecting the idea of the new,
All in favor to deny? Is that what?
to reject.
Okay.
It so very rarely happens, I know.
True.
Actually, we have done a fair amount of these, rejected a fair amount.
The devil's in the details, apparently. So, Mr. Clerk.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item C2, and this is the first reading for Ordinance 2019-13. This is to allow for a water pollution control surcharge as part of the industrial pretreatment program.
So although this is first reading, I think it's appropriate that we hear a little bit more about what we're trying to pass, Mr. Administrator.
Yeah, our pre-treatment coordinators here and chemist, Glenn Conway, if you'd fill the council in, please.
Absolutely.
Just,
Yeah, my
use-
name is Glenn Conway. I'm the pre-treatment coordinator for the town of Bristol.
Can you bring that up to you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Glenn Conway, I'm the pre-treatment coordinator for the town of Bristol. First off, I want to say thank you to the town for letting me serve the staff at Water Pollution Control. They're a great crew.
Just need to move
Can
it.
you turn that on?
It's on, it's just,
Move it a little closer.
Really? Okay.
we need you to be on the radio, so, there it is.
How about now?
Is
Can
that a
you hear
little
me
better?
now? You cool?
I think they're having a problem.
Wanna try mine?
The wife just texted me saying that.
Lou, could we have a little vamp music
Hello?
while this goes on? Thank you.
There's a little bit of, oh, there is.
She just texted.
Glenn, please.
All right. Glenn Conway, Water Pollution Control. I'm the pretreatment coordinator. So I'm trying to change how surcharges are assessed to our businesses to create a more consistent formula that everyone can understand. This is not a violation. This is not a fine. This doesn't mean somebody is out of compliance from their permit. I equate it to going over your data usage for your cell phone. You pay the data, the overcharge, the surcharge, and after a while, you might decide you don't want to pay the surcharge anymore. It's a lot cheaper to change your plan. So that is what the surcharge is, and we're trying to keep our businesses below the $12.50 mark for BODs and TSSs. And
Glenn, for all of us who don't speak that language, what did you just say?
yeah, we're just monitoring the amount of nutrients that organic nutrients that come into the plant, that we process it and neutralize it before we send it out into the bag. So the amount of time it takes for us to collect, handle that nutrients, and discharge it, process it and discharge it, takes man hours, takes material, and the surcharge is our way of recouping the cost for higher strength wastewater discharge from our businesses.
Have you
So,
seen a big change? Which brought this on? Have you seen a big change?
No,
in the
no.
process?
It's a very rare occurrence. Maybe it happens once or twice every 2 years. You know, it doesn't happen that much.
Okay.
The problem with the original ordinance was that it was written in like 1992, and it took a very complex formula of money flow and pounds, how often a business was open, the days they were open. So there were a lot of factors involved trying to figure out what that surcharge number was going to be. By simplifying it, you don't have to use that formula, you don't have to go looking for all this information, and the businesses will be clear on what they'll be charged if they go over this BOD number of $12.50.
Got it. It's a simplification. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like Mr. Conway to explain how many businesses this would actually affect.
Well, it would actually, all businesses that are in the pretreatment program, about 150, 160, are all susceptible to this surcharge, but only 5 of them at the moment are regularly tested. They're tested quarterly because there are significant industry users. The rest are non-significant. But if we thought somebody was changing the model of their business, we could go and sample their wastewater, their effluent, and see if they're within our parameters.
It also removes some of the ambiguity, correct? And some of the discretion out of that, is my understanding? So it gives a clearer explanation. If you're over, this is how much it is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because you don't have to worry about how much water they used during certain periods of time, when they were open, and that's all information we have to get from the business themselves. So we don't need any of that now with this new change.
So essentially, it's taking the guesswork in many of the cases, like the days they're open, the volumes and so forth. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. It standardizes what the assessment's going to be. And correct me if I'm wrong, Glenn, it's we're not looking to increase the assessment, right?
No,
it's just standardizing it to take.
I worked the numbers of various scenarios, and the numbers come very close. Our pretreatment program is tiered based on the volume of wastewater that is discharged, and the more wastewater that is discharged, the higher their permit. So it works out perfectly in that a larger industry that goes over this 1250 number, they will pay a little bit more than your lower tiered business because they're discharging more fluid and we're processing more of that nutrients than the other one because there's more volume of it.
Right.
Does anybody else have any questions? So we need a motion for first reading?
Very interesting.
So move.
Second?
There's a motion and a second for first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item C3, and this is ordinance 2000. This is the first reading, of ordinance 2019-14, and this sets forth new sections regarding certain instances requiring curb-to-curb paving.
What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to approve the first reading for adoption.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second. I just want to add something real quick. This stemmed out of a conversation that I had with the DPW director. A resident had reached out to me and said that there was a poorly fixed road patch. And the kind of conversation came from there. It was a law that was passed, a state law that was passed recently, that allows the teeth that are in this potential ordinance to require the utility to pave from curb to curb. So if they do some main work or something like that, they have to go from one side of the street to the other. The benefit to the town is that we're not fixing things, say, 5 and 6 years down the road. That 5 and 6 years is really important because our current ordinance says that if they open a road within 5 years of it being paved, that do have to do curb to curb. This will push it after that and push the burden away from the town to fix things that we didn't open up in the first place. So,
I really think it's a great ordinance, and thank you for bringing it forward because we've seen so many times where these roads have torn up, and then they're put back. They just slap the asphalt on, it settles, and then we have a huge, crater. So long and the short of it, I think hopefully this will help mitigate this problem. So I think it's a good ordinance. I'm glad we're moving forward with it.
any other discussion? There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item C4, and this is the first reading of ordinance 2019-15. The Council will recall it received the request to consider the upgrade of a certain Class B license from limited to full, and this effectively would reduce the number of limited licenses from 6 to 5 and increase the number of full BVs from 29 to 30.
What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to approve the first reading for adoption to decrease the number of BV limited license from 6 to 5 and decrease the number of BV from 29 to 30.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, item C5, this is ordinance 2019-16, and this is the first reading of an ordinance to create a no parking space on Milk Street.
I moved for us to approve the first reading.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item D1. This is the petition of Lisa Foss, doing business as Beyond the Bolt, 500 Metacom Avenue, Units A and B, requests holiday sales license. You have recommendations provided by the Town Administrator, Fire Chief, and Interim Police Chief.
Based on all the positive recommendations, I make a motion to approve the request for a holiday sales license, and good luck.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The
Thank you.
next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item D2, and this is the petition of Robert Kraft and Kathy Riley, doing business as Liberty Laundromat, 246 State Street, request for a public laundry license. You have a late item recommendation provided by the Department of Water Pollution Control.
Based on the positive recommendations, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I had a quick question. Isn't this open already? Is this? It is open already. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this-
I drove by the store. It looks great. Looks great. Good to see it.
I was kind of going in a different direction, to be quite honest,
Yeah.
because it was open without the license, to be quite honest. So there's a motion and a
Lights are
second.
on. Lights are on.
Good recovery. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the petition of Richard Carenti, doing business as the Portside Tavern, 444 Thames Street, request council consideration for a one-day dancing and entertainment license. You have a recommendation provided by the Town Administrator and Fire Chief, and also a late recommendation provided by the Interim Police Chief.
What's this council's pleasure?
Based on the recommendations, I move for us to approve it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, we have item D4, and this is the petition of Jennifer Cavallaro, doing business as the Beehive Cafe, 10 Franklin Street, request council consideration for Class BV liquor license. This is the call for a public hearing to be held at your next meeting, October 30th.
Motion to call for a public hearing on October 30th.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item F1, and this is the petition of Patricia Enos, 21 Milk Street, request council consideration for no parking area in the vicinity of her residence. You have recommendations provided by the Town Administrator, Director of Public Works, and also the Interim Police Chief.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
Oh, okay. I did have an opportunity to visit. Saturday was my no parking day. I had an opportunity to visit the area, and it's very challenging because of additional construction that it's taken place there. At the very end, there was use for some of these folks to park. They're no longer able to park there because of the construction and the curb cutting that's taken place there. So I would recommend that we approve it.
So our next step here would be to refer this to the solicitor to create an ordinance for no parking. Is there any other? Well, actually, we need a motion. So is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I just wanted to say my discussion is just the same as I said earlier on the first case. I mean, I understand that this is a case-by-case and that there's the need because of the construction project going on, but we need to be mindful of, what we're limiting, that's all.
Mary, I think it's worth saying again and again, we have less and less parking. The town has purchased a parking lot. We continue to lease parking spaces, parking lots, so we shouldn't do that and then get rid of spaces on our street as much as possible, of course. So, agreed. So we have a motion and a second to refer to the administrator to refer to the solicitor to create an ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the first item under your appointment section. This is correspondence from the Chairman of the Christmas Festival Committee recommending additional members, Shannon LaRiviere and Erica Annis.
I make a motion that we appoint the recommended candidates.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is for the Harbor Commission Advisory Committee. This is to fill an unexpired term to expire in August of 2022. You have the application of Tori Peterson of 6 Avenue Court.
Move that we schedule an interview for October 30th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And also the Personnel Board, this is to fill unexpired term to expire in December of 2021. You have the application of Chris Wetterland Jr., 3 Leela Jean Drive, and also Matthew P. Cabral of 5 Polk Court.
I don't know if we want to, I'd like to make a motion to schedule an interview. I don't know if we have time on October 30th. meeting, but
That is the plan for that.
Yeah.
These were the plan for that.
that's the plan.
meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
Second.
Thanks,
There's a
Lou.
motion and a second, and to reiterate, this is we'll do this at 6 p.m. on October 30th, have a separate meeting, and then start our regular council meeting at 7 o'clock. Okay. So there's a motion and a second to schedule interviews. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Before we go any further, this is the part of the show that I say thank you. This council says thank you, and the town says thank you for the efforts and energies, and the harbor master's smiling at me because he's heard this before. We thank the people who give their time, effort, and energy back to the community, whether it's zoning board or it's the Christmas festival committee, because each one of those things is so important. I say that because if you're down there for the lighting, is there anything more important than the lighting that night?
No.
Of course not. So every one of our boards and commissions are important, and we say thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item G2. This is correspondence from the administrator regarding his appointment of Raquel Pellerin as Town Treasurer. The council did express interest potentially of having some of this in executive session, and Ms. Pellerin was informed by the solicitor of that possibility.
That is the intention of the council. But, Mr. Administrator, could you share a bit? I know Raquel's here tonight, but could you share a bit about Raquel and why we're considering her for this important position?
Very pleased to do so. So after a advertisement, interviews of candidates for the role of town treasurer, I'm pleased to announce the name for approval by the town council of Raquel I. Pellerin. Raquel is here today. She has a lifelong career in public service, specifically finance. She started in the city of Fall River, worked through the ranks, and upon leaving for another community, she was interim finance director for the city of Fall River. From there, she went to the town of Middletown, where she was finance director for 8 years. She has an MBA in business and a bachelor's degree in accounting. She's certified in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island in school finance. She's currently the Bristol Warren Regional School Department's finance director. So I think it's a great opportunity for not only the town to keep somebody here local that knows municipal finance so well and also knows school finance. I think it's going to be a benefit to our whole community, meaning the town and the school department. And I really want to emphasize that, and I say it all the time, our biggest, most treasured asset here is our youth. And I think that this is a great opportunity to have somebody on board on the municipal side that have a good understanding of the hardships and the struggles there in the district and can help us and is available for us. And also we're going to extend that invitation. I'm sure she will once she starts here, hopefully, with the school district to reassure them that she's here to help them also. We are one community. So that is my goal with Raquel. She's highly qualified, and I'm thrilled that she's interested in coming on board to the municipal side where she started. She started in municipal finance. She's been in school finance for a shorter amount of time, but she'd like to come back. She's here. She's here actually with our Julie Gosha is here sitting with her, and also one of her good friends, childhood friends, and I think there's somebody from the school committee here also. So.
I don't think there's a higher thumbs up or regard for someone. So those of you with eagle eyes can see Julie Gosher, our prior treasurer, who is sitting right next to our potential new treasurer. So there's a glowing review if there ever has been one, and they're both smiling. So
Yeah.
looking forward to having some conversation at the end of the meeting. So
Great.
thank you, Mr.
So I
Minister.
hope the council does consider this and confirms this appointment. And I appreciate your due diligence and attention to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, also from the administrator, concerns a new lease with A&R Marine Corp. Incorporated.
Mr. Administrator?
So this lease has been negotiated for over a year. The harbor master has been working with us on it. So essentially what it does is it extends the current lease for another 5 years. There is an increase, about 8%. There'll be an escalator for the next 5 years, and then there'll be options to renew for 3 additional 5-year terms. The last 2 5-year terms, the financial terms would have to be negotiated. So this allows A&R to market their services to Prudence Island with much more confidence to their residents on the island that they're here to stay. So if there are any questions, Greg is here also.
Does the council have any questions? No?
Greg, I just had a quick question for you. I know you're doing the plowing of snow. Do you have a backup?
I work with Kevin.
Great.
If I'm out of town or anything, we know storms coming, I'm in contact with him.
Okay.
I also have one of my assistant harbor masters that can do it if I'm not around.
Excellent. Thank you.
What's this council's pleasure?
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item also from the administrator regarding parking lot lease extensions.
Feels like it's the administrator show today, doesn't it?
It's that lease time of year. So we're going to continue on the same plan that we had last year. The seasonal lot that we've had open runs from May 1st through October 31st. So November 1st it'll shut down. And so the property owner is willing to do it with the same terms and the same rate as last year. So that's 6 months. It'll shut down November 1st, and we anticipate with the Prudence Island Ferry project being completed early winter, we'll have that open for public parking. The other lease attached also is the subleased lot, and that's across from the mill, Robin Rugg Mill. That's a 1-year lease extension, and again, that provides some a level of guarantee to the Prudence Island residents that there is parking there so that they can commute on the ferry.
Thank you. There's, I had one thing, and it actually had nothing to do with the verbiage here, is that when you drive by there, the sign that's there for the municipal seems, our municipal sign is fine, but there's I guess you call it a sandwich board sign, that's a bit rustic, would be a nice way to put it.
Yeah, we put a request. We spoke about that, I think it was earlier today, to see if the property owner would remove that. But I think it's important for the public to know also that the parking lot isn't costing us anything. We sublease it, and I think there's a general net revenue of like $6,000. So we rent it, and then we sublease it.
So to remind everybody, that parking used to happen on the Prudence Island ferry dock, and the town felt it more appropriate to move that parking across the street to have marina parking and general parking on the Prudence Island ferry dock. It just seemed a more appropriate way to do it. Prudence Island residents usually just drop off their cars and leave, where we have a lot more interaction on the dock. It gives a better picture of the town. Obviously, it's a spectacular view, too, so all in all, a better way to do it. The sign that I was kind of joking around is, it specifically says the area across the street that we speak of, that we sublease, it's pointing to the sign that says, please don't park there if you don't have a lease agreement with me, but it's rustic. We'll stay with rustic. I like that. So, okay. So we need a motion. I'm sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. Have the residents from Prudence Island approached you at all with any issues about parking?
I think they typically reach out to Greg.
Greg?
Yeah. Greg, you want to answer that?
Yeah. Have you heard from them recently?
We haven't. I haven't got any good complaints. Let's put it that way. The complaint generally is I got to walk an extra 100 yards. Other than that, but we haven't had any parking problems. We towed less cars this year. We had the small lot open. We collected revenue on that. I don't have the specific number off the top of my head, but this summer, as much parking changes as we made, went a lot easier at the waterfront than the last 3. So I think everybody's getting the message over there, and a lot more cars and have been taking the ferry, taking their cars with them across to the island. So,
And that dock, the dock where we just talked about, where parking is right on the water end of things, a lot of effort went into making sure that there is an on and off loading area for the residents that are using the ferry, so they don't have to trudge all of those things across the street. They can park there, unload whatever they need to, and then park their car to make it more convenient for them. So, is there anything else?
No?
What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to approve the parking lot lease extension.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is a call for a public hearing to consider a resolution to sell property at Gooding Plaza. This is known as Plat 118, lots 1 and 2.
So normally, a call for a public hearing would be just that, and we would stop right there. But this is a departure from maybe something that we've done in a long time, which is a conveyance of public land. Mr. DeLeo is here with representatives to help convey some overarching ideas. We do have a public hearing on the 30th, and we'll get more into it at that point in time. But I'm going to just take 30 seconds to give you a summary here. That property was leased to Mr. DeLeo, family, and others for a 99-year lease by the town about 65 years ago. I'm ballparking here. That lease is now up for a review. And what I mean by that is that in this portion of the lease, it can be renegotiated, and we look at those numbers again. And again, I don't want to get too deep into it because we have our public hearing on the 30th. But that's why it's in front of us today. After lots of dialogue with Mr. DeLeo, his family, and others that are in concert with this, it was proposed that the town sell that land. So the town currently owns what we speak of is where Ace is and the banks are and Dunkin' Donuts, the Dollar Tree. Is it the Dollar Tree? Yes. Okay. So it is being proposed that that land be sold. And again, we will get into those particulars on the 30th, but the overview is that what that means is that that property, the motivation of the owners or potentially soon to be owners is to improve that facility and improve both the parking lot and the facades of the building, potentially the buildings themselves, which is a wonderful economic development. At this point in time, I don't think the motivation was there for the current leasees, right, the DeLeos and family, to do a lot of extra effort because it wasn't theirs. Selling this property or potentially selling this property gives them that motivation. The benefit to the town is, of course, that we get the selling price of that. There's property taxes. Plus, there was a mutual agreement, which you're going to see in a moment, that will be greening the parking lot. And what that means in English is that there will be strips in the parking lot, like if you go down to the town beach. That's a greened parking lot. So the water doesn't race off into our streams and rivers and then make it out into the bay. It catches there. It cleans itself, mostly. And it's a massive improvement in what gets into our water. That's part of it. Plus, as I mentioned, property tax. Plus, we talked about, and part of this agreement mutually, is to make sure that there is parking for our fire department that's right there, along with commuter parking. It isn't denoted specifically 1 and 1, but those spaces will be there for the public and our firefighters for events and, of course, to fight fires. Mr. DeLeo, could you come up and share just a bit, or whoever you want to convey that information to us?
Good evening, members of the council. I'm Steve McGillivray. I represent Gooding Realty, which is the potential buyer of the company. Thank you for inviting us here tonight. I won't repeat everything you just said because you've basically took my little preamble.
Did I steal your thunder? I'm so
That's
sorry.
Okay. That's okay. But I would agree with you that Gooding has wanted to improve the property for some time, but as a lessee, it just wasn't feasible. And as an owner, that desire can be realized. And I think both the town, from our discussions, both the town and Gooding would like to see that property improved. I mean, it's the gateway to Bristol from the north. It has a lot of potential that just hasn't been realized yet. So tonight, we won't spend a lot of your time. We have Colgate Searle from the Searle Design Group. He's done a preliminary greening of the property for us. The drawing that we have, again, is preliminary, it's conceptual, but it gives you kind of an idea of what we're thinking about. It does not have the easement marked off. The eventual map that we give the town, the future conditions plan, will actually have the delineated easement for the fire department and for public parking, which up to this point has just been kind of an informal arrangement. But in any event, without taking up too much time, and Mr. DeLeo, Ray DeLeo, is here also to answer any questions. We have some copies of the plan that we can give you each. We also have a hard copy if...
Thank you very much.
Mr. You're probably going to have to talk. Thank you. We'll have copies.
You'll have copies. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Mike, can you see that?
Thanks. Thank you so much.
I know the audience can't, but it's okay.
That was such a big improvement.
Okay, so Searle Design Group undertook this project, and we started out by looking at the existing conditions, and from a standpoint of the drainage that happens on the site, how much bituminous concrete is on the site, and issues of safety that are problematic on the site. We found that the road that a lot of people travel right close to the stores, in some places is a little narrower than it should be. We also found that having no islands or no organization to the parking allowed people to diagonally go across anywhere they wanted to. So the pedestrian is kind of in a strange place because there isn't order. So sometimes ordering a parking lot makes it safer for everybody. So that was another thing. We also found that the aisle widths between parking were 4, 6, and sometimes 8 feet wider than the town ordinance of 24 feet. So there's asphalt that you do not need, right? And that asphalt could be taken away and actually used for planting and used for rain gardens in a way so that we can at least slow water down a little bit and treat it partially. And some places it works very successfully. Some places there may have to be additional engineering. So we looked at the plan that's before you, if I can still be heard over here. The plan talks about major entrances that are the ones that come in now. And those major entrances, when you adjust the parking islands and you take the roadway that goes in, which is 38 feet wide, it only needs to be less than 30, but if you give it 30, you've got 4 feet on either side that you can start to work with. That's where we get at least a 10-foot planter. So we've tried to make planters 8 to 10 feet, big enough so they really can have plant material survive, not the little narrow ones that die 5 years later. So having enough ground is really important. So there are major areas that come in and organize, and those areas that come in and organize kind of work with the architecture and work where you could kind of state architecture in the future. The second, so we end up with aisles that demark islands that actually get organized parking or organized ways of coming in, and we also have aisles that establish a relationship all along the store facades that is not there now, which helps safety. We've rearranged the ADA, van parking, and other parking, and those lots actually are right close. They're in edge of the islands, but you can actually walk through the island. You don't have to go out into the parking lot in order to go across the street. So the thing is really set up so it really works for the handicap or anybody in that case. So that's the organization. We've also looked at a couple of things, and again, there's been no architecture looked. So one of the other drawings before you is just a section. It might be the main entrance that goes in now to the building. It would have a curb on the side, and that green strip on the back side with the parking would have curb, but there would be gaps in the curb, which allows the stormwater to break in, and it goes very, very gently down The stormwater would go down closer to the establishments, where now it's picked up, so it has to you add another drain and you go into the system. So it's sort of using the system that's in place, but catching it and bringing it in. And that's a really nice long distance, and it really would work well in terms of starting to alleviate some of the runoff problems that happen. So we've looked at that as a kind of model when you've got these sloping conditions and you can take water in on one side, and it usually happens when you're trying to either organize a parking area or, in this case, try to make sure there's a couple places that are really demarked as entrance. The second thing we looked at is along Dunkin' Donut and that first row of buildings that happens there is the possibility of using planter boxes under that short roof to collect that roof water, but also begin to make openings where doors are, but actually make a space so you're not breaking out into the street. So that second section in one of the drawings that you have there, you talk about the planter box, but it also talks about where there isn't a planter box, that 4 feet being planted. So when you come in, so you have a space underneath the shelter, and you also have a space to go through to get out into parking. So it's trying to, and that organizes, as you see on the plan drawing that's across that, and it tries to recognize entrances so that you would go across and move into a store between big openings between the planter boxes. So that was the second thing that we did. The third thing in your handout is just a suggestion of plant material. We try to go with natives as much as possible, or cultivars of natives, because they've been bred to do better. And a lot of the trees that might be in the islands and so on are medium-sized trees. They're not huge trees. But one tree that could be in a perimeter situation or in an island is one of the cultivars of red maple. It can take being in a drought, it can take being wet, and it has brilliant color in the fall. So we looked at the plant material for not only what it might do, but also how it might have color or accent during different times of the year, which I think is really important. We are recommending the black oak for the perimeter. Your soils are dense. Oaks do really well in that soil, but I'm not necessarily saying they should be out on a parking island where someone cars every other year. The acorns are so much your car gets covered in acorns. So there's a place for them, and it's probably along the perimeter where the widest area is. So there's a series of things. Then there's a series of shrubs. And then there's a series of grasses and things that are right close to where water might be in the rain garden, right? Rain gardens can just be mowed grass, right? They don't have to have plants in them. But there's an opportunity to really plant these with both trees and shrubs and still allow water to move through them to be both irrigated, but also to help take some of the particulate matter and some of the nutrients out of the water. So this is a general summary of the master kind of landscape plan for the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's just to give you an idea of what we're looking at the moment.
Seems like no thought whatsoever was put into this.
On the 30th, we're gonna try to have a facade plan as well, but we're working on that right now, getting a new architect to do that for us. So that's our hope. But we'll be here on the 30th to answer any questions at the very least.
So I'd like to add a critical point that I didn't add earlier. I said this was a kind of a departure from what usually happens, and one of the questions that we'll probably get a few times is, why didn't this go out to market? Why wasn't this put out to bid? And the simple answer is that the lease did not allow that option. So we could have renegotiated the lease dollars and moved forward to the end of the lease for another 35 years or approximately. Or, as what happened here, it was presented by Mr. DeLeo in representation that they would like to purchase it. That's how we got here. That's why it didn't go out to a public offering, because that wasn't an option here. On the 30th, we'll talk about how we got to a dollar figure, how it was justified, and we also want to hear from the public. This was what we believe is well thought out, but we stand here or sit here open to those dialogues and with open ears. So did you want to add anything else before we? Steve?
No, I'm fine. Thanks again for inviting us tonight. We'll be here on the 30th to answer any questions.
My colleagues?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we need a motion to call for public hearing on October 30th.
So move.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Sorry.
The next item is from Councilman Texera regarding his request for an update regarding the status of the marina expansion and also the status of the Capital Project Commission.
Tony?
Mr. Chairman, that's precisely that. I just would like to hear, well, not just me alone, actually. Quite a few folks have approached me, and they wanted to know what the status of the marina was. And I said, only one way we can find out is ask the question and then have, some of the information provided for the public.
Mr. Administrator?
Sure. I think I'd like to start and provide Harbor Master to add additional details. But I know the Harbor Commission and Advisory Group has been meeting, and they've been working with Greg on the plan. The pre-application was submitted for the marina expansion to CRMC, Coastal Resources Management Council. They came back with comments. We do have an architect, Par Engineering, that are reviewing those comments that they made, and our hope is to get the full CRMC application into CRMC by November 1st. So what that means is after that, it takes typically 6 months for CRMC to come back with an approval or a denial. We're anticipating an approval. And at that point, we can go out to advertising. There's a lead time on the steel for the contractor once selected. So we're hoping the actual marina expansion would be for summer of 21, late summer of 2021. But in the meantime, we can hopefully begin on the transient slips, portion of the transient slips where the fuel pumps would go. There is a grant that's not opening till being announced until March of 20. So it's a $600,000 DEM grant that we're waiting for, and it's well worth the wait. So we're moving forward with it. It's in the architects have it, the engineers have it. They're waiting to respond. It's a comprehensive application to CRMC, but we're moving forward with it. But that's our goal. And Greg, please feel free, and Diane Williamson also, if you'd like to add anything.
We had this morning. I made the 3-bridge trip over to South Kingstown and met with CRMC with Dan Galley from CRMC, who we started with in 2014. We went through the whole plans. We had Par Engineering with us in their permitting office. Got a lot of questions answered today. They're going to finish up the permit, as Steve said, and we'll be out on or about November 1st. The fuel, on the other side, they love the fuel. The concept of having their own fuel in place, environmentally it's safer. That's a 3-month permitting process, thereabouts. So with this grant that Diane worked on mostly, if that opens and we get that money, was $640,000? About ballpark $640,000, which will be used for both the transient portion of the marina and for the fuel dock to help defray the cost of that. With that being said, that's all cookie cutter stuff as far as the fuel stuff. That's stuff's on hand. We can maybe have that in place, with you guys' blessing, by late summer, early fall of 2020. Marina, 2021, it'll be open. As long as the state keeps moving on it. So that's where we're at.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the update. Certainly, it answers quite a few questions. Plus, it just provides some information for some of the folks who are very interested in, as we know, there's a list of folks who are waiting, and, every so often they poke in at questions as to, okay, how soon, what's going on, and so forth. So this is a very transparent way for us to provide information and just to let them know what's happening at this point. So thank you.
And having that grant, $600,000, that's quite a big grant to get. So that would take a good chunk out of that $2.8 million price tag, right?
And this feels sometimes that it takes a long time, and the answer is because it does. Yeah. And Diane, I think you like to say a lot of times it's like a Rubik's Cube, right? You move this and you get your parking, and then now you don't have your marina expansion, and then you put your parking back, but now you need your fuel dock, and so it takes a while. And this town, and with all of us sitting here, do not want anything else but the best. And I mean the best in the sense of safety, the best in the sense of long-term stability. And all of us here have been proponents of this expansion, but we're also proponents in a quality way, and in a way that makes sure that 20 years from now, and 30 years from now, we go down there, it's still a beautiful facility, and a safe one, too. So, very true.
Well, it looks like everything's moving forward, and we're all eager to get the marina going and everything. And I think the chairman makes a great point. We'd love to have these things up right away, but you really got to measure twice and cut once, right? You have to make sure that the job's done right, and that the grants are filled out the way that they're supposed to be filled out, and that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And so we're looking forward to it, and I think it'll be worth the wait.
I do too. Yeah. Well said.
And the next item would have been the Capital Project Commission. And the reason why I put that there is I know we lost our chair, who was the treasurer, but I'm sure that's not the reason why they would interfere, or if it was necessary to have the Capital Project Commission involved. With that being said, could we just have a clarification point for the public as to why should or should not the Capital Project Commission be involved, let's say, on the Prudence Ferry as an example? And I know that's infrastructure. I read the ordinance or the charter, so I picked up on that very quickly when the question was asked. I did some homework. But I think just for the public's sake, I think it's important because some folks have asked, okay, why aren't they involved? Prudence, the marina.
That's a great question.
Although it hasn't started yet, but just for clarification.
Okay, so the Prudence Island dock, the repairs that are going on there, the way the ordinance reads for Capital Projects Commission is any time an expenditure over $500,000 in bonds, in cash or bonds. Our match was not $500,000. It was I want to say less than $300,000. So it didn't invoke the requirement to use the Capital Projects Commission. But there weren't a lot of decisions with that project. It was pretty much replace what was there with a different, sheet piling. So, our engineer, we went out for an engineer, and our engineers designed it, and we're proud to say that the sinkholes are going to be eliminated, and it's going very well as of right now. So the Capital Projects Commission was not required for that because we didn't reach the threshold in spending. And then
it's infrastructure work, so it's understood.
Yeah. The marina expansion, that might be advisable to just, once we get the plan approved and we're preparing to go out to construction, out to bid, then we invoke them. But as I said earlier, right now we do have input, and there are avenues for the public through the Harbor Commission, the Advisory Committee, Commission, and at this point, but it's too early to ask for the Capital Projects Commission to convene. But we can certainly, we'll most likely do so at that point.
I sort of concur with you, not that we don't have capable individuals, we certainly do, and the staff, and I agreed, in terms of the Prudence Ferry, we have an engineer on board, civil engineer, who certainly can do oversight. However, on the marina, I agreed that if we can, because the Capital Projects Commission members, there is quite a bit of skill there as well, and certainly it will be helpful to have another set of eyes. I know they were very helpful with the Maritime Center, and I know it's a building versus, but it doesn't hurt if they can be rolled in and provide some support. And so, thank you. Appreciate the explanation, more so for the public, so thank you.
Tony, could I have a receive and file on that?
Yes, please receive and file.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item I-5, and this is from the administrator regarding his request for executive session, as so noted. The next items are 3 bids. Item J1 is bid 914, and this is for on-call carpenter services. We received 1 bid from Westway Construction of Bristol in the amount of $64.35 per hour.
Motion to refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Item J2 is bid 915, and this is for on-call interior and exterior painting services. There were 2 bids. The first from Westway Construction, again, of Bristol, in the amount of $56.42 an hour, and also from Rayoni Rodriguez of 11 2nd School Street, Bristol, in the amount of $40 per hour.
Motion to refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, item J3, this was bid 916 for on-call masonry services, and the single bidder is John Pacheco Masonry Company of Bristol in the amount of $64 per hour.
Motion to refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is item K1, and this is the periodic report that's provided by Barrington BCW, Bristol County Water Authority Director Alan Klepper.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next is an additional executive session requested by the town solicitor, and I'm sure the council would like to take that up at the conclusion of the public agenda, and then we go to the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
I shall be brief. Next door is the Bristol Bagel Place, or Bristol Bagel Works. Been around for 25 years. We all signed something tonight to congratulate them. I've been going there for 25 years, believe it or not. No, I don't get a bagel every day, but I would if I could. They've been doing a great job. The Browns are a welcoming family. That's a welcoming business, and it's turned into and it has been for 25 years, a great place to go and buy stuff from. So congratulations to the Browns, and also congratulations to the staff there, because that's a great accomplishment. The other thing is we have a resident, Troy Kennedy is his name. He's the Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army. He's also a Deputy Defense Coordinating Officer. He's in charge of FEMA Region 1. That's a lot to put on a card, and I had to read it over here. Here's why I'm sharing it. Troy has been very, very kind to share programs, free programs to the town, and one of them is one that he just shared with me recently, which is ransomware and cyber attacks. There are people who are National Guardsmen who, on their full-time jobs, deal with ransomware. So this is free to the town. And there's a lot of other programs like this, and I bring this to everyone's attention because I'd like to take the next step on this. This is not to find areas of improvement. Well, it is, but it's not to show some ball drop someplace by our current tech firm. Not at all. It's to help our current tech firm take it to the next level, also to test the fences and figure out if we've got issues. Issues exist. There are 6 towns in Texas that are under ransomware, had to write checks for $350 $250,000. If you know what encryption means and you encrypt your backup, that's exactly what one of the ways is that they do, is they encrypt all of our information and then sell it back to us. And we can't get it. They have the key. We don't. So we have great systems in place, but they're always looking for, I think I've got the right term here, the soft target on this. And we do not want to be that. So this is, I just want to give kudos to Troy Kennedy, because I think it's wonderful that he continues to share this. There's a multitude of programs out there that the town could take advantage of. This one in particular, and most of them are actually free. And I will forward this to the administrator so we can take a look at it a little bit closer. So thanks, everyone.
Mr. Sweeney.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so it's definitely time to honor and support those who have been affected. Just wanted to make everybody aware, on September, October 20th, Make Strides Against Breast Cancer. It's being run by the American Cancer Society. It's a walk in Providence, so you can quickly Google it. I won't go any further than that. I think check-in is at 7:30 and the walk is at 9, but definitely we've got to have to wipe this out, get rid of this. And I also wanted to talk to my colleagues about Independence Park. As many of you know, you go down to Independence Park, and it's a gorgeous park with a great view, but sometimes you see those ugly cement blocks that are kind of going around the park. So I was down by the Attorney General's for my jury duty on Monday, and I saw these great little pillars. Steve gave me another word. I can't remember it, but...
Bollards.
And they look pretty sharp.
Sounds like
and I
an
thought
English
maybe
swear.
this is something my colleagues in the administration will consider, or another alternative to sort of kind of beautify that beautiful park. So I'll pass these pictures around, but something that was a thought, something to consider, and we can get rid of that. So anyway, that's all I had. I hope you guys have a great evening, and see you soon.
Mr. Texera.
I'll be brief. Actually, just on the point of those, the blocks down there, I've seen them when I was in Washington, D.C. They actually have similar, but they've used as flower beds, the flower pots, so to speak. So they dress them up somewhat in order to,
beautify that area.
Beautify them, yes.
Yeah.
The other piece, as the chairman already pointed out, on cybersecurity, I did attend a 4-hour workshop yesterday, and some of the stories that I heard yesterday, I will not repeat them because I don't think it's in the best interest to let the public be aware of that. But it's very chilling to see some of the things in how they're accessing, and hacking computers. So you got to be very careful. That's one of the things that I've been stressing with the employees in Little Compton, and certainly we need to stress here. If you're not sure, don't open it. You got to be very cautious. Folks sometimes just want to click on things when you're not very clear. Don't open and ask for support just to be sure that you don't go down the wrong path, because it can turn into a very ugly situation and very expensive. So, but with that being said, not on a bad note, but let's have a good night.
So what you're saying is that if a Saudi prince contacts you and you don't know who it is, you probably shouldn't click on it then, yeah?
You got it. So true.
Ms. Perella.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment and extend my, and I'm sure on behalf of the council, our sympathy to the Swift and Barron families on the loss of Natalie, their daughter and wife, mom, who lost her very courageous battle with ALS over the weekend. And for anyone who has, I don't know Natalie personally, I mean, I see her parents to speak to, and her and her husband. She's a mom with 6 children. She had this disease when she was in her 40s. Her kids were pretty young. I think the youngest was just maybe a toddler. And she has just been an inspiration, I think, to anyone. The whole family has, really, to anyone who is going through adversity and illness like that. She had great faith in God, and that really, I think, got them through. And she just wanted to see her children grow up. And it is really amazing to see how she tried to be involved with everything. I mean, you would see her at any of the wheelchair-bound you see her at church up until this past weekend. At the feast, she would try to like participate and maybe work at one of the booths and talk to people the best that she could. And I also think her husband is, I don't really know him either personally, but just remarkable in terms of the care that the whole family came around and gave her. And so certainly when you talk about in sickness and in health, her children, her parents, her sisters, and cousins, relatives, everyone. So I just want to extend our sympathy on Natalie's passing, and she is an inspiration to so many people in this community and in Warren. She grew up in Bristol. She lives in Warren currently, and I think that I just hope that and pray that everyone, that they have great memories. I know that they do, and just wish them the very best.
Thank you.
Mr. Lay.
Thank you, Mary, for those really nice words about the Swift family. On September 27th, we had a delegation of people out here from Maryland, and it was the Annapolis mayor, the city manager of Annapolis, the county manager of the largest county in Maryland, and they're right alongside the Chesapeake Bay, so they're dealing with a lot of the same issues that we deal with alongside the Narragansett Bay. So they're really confronting the stormwater challenges and the challenges of climate change just as we are. So it was a great opportunity to have a leadership exchange with them and to have a conversation, and the town administrator was very gracious to show them around. We took them to the Bristol Town Beach where they could see the successes and the model that we have over there for drainage. We took them to the boardwalk to show them what's in store for economic development. We took them to Gutierrez School, to the Discovery Garden over there that was built by some of the families that have children that are going to Gutierrez School, and it was just remarkable. And it didn't occur to me until we got to Gutierrez School that they asked us, they said, how do you get all these grants for this stuff? And I think Ed Tanner was with as well, and I do have to really give Ed a lot of credit because he and the town administrator really ran the show and kind of explained everything to them. But he said that we get the job done over here, and I'm just really excited that we have some of the personnel that we have that can get these grants, get the job done, and improve the environment around here so that we can pass it on to the next generation, to Natalie's kids and to our kids, and to make sure that we had the foresight to deal with the stormwater issues that we're dealing with here on the Narragansett Bay. So one of the things that I did want to congratulate Diane, because I had an opportunity to attend at Roger Williams Park Zoo, where they had a stormwater summit. It came to my attention that Diane and Ed had done a lot of work and were able to secure another grant that greens up the Mount Hope High School parking lot. And so I'll just turn it over to Diane. I kind of put you on the spot today, but if you can just explain a little bit about what that does, I think that would be helpful to our audience for an educational standpoint.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And this is another SNEP grant. It's a federal grant. It's a small grant, smaller than some of the other ones. It's a $30,000 grant to develop a master plan for the area around the high school. I think it's 14 acres.
44.
44, thank you. 44 acres. So if you recall that there's been some improvements of stormwater projects at the high school, they've been somewhat more incremental in nature. And this plan is needed because we need to sort of zoom back out and look at the entire property there. We've got lots of good opportunities, as you said, to green the parking lot and introduce some more rain gardens and things like that. Maybe do some work around the pond. But we have to look at the whole property in a more holistic way and really address it. So the grant funds will, and the school district has agreed to provide some of the match for this as well, because they want to be part of the solution with us. So the project will create a master plan for improvements, and then we'll get some implementation for specific projects to move forward and get more funding to actually implement and we'll try to have a phased approach to get all of these projects checked off. So that's what we're doing, and town administrator and Ed and I just reviewed we just went out to bid for an RFP. We just went out to an RFP to hire an engineer. So we were just reviewing the proposals that we received to award the project to an engineering firm. So we should be ready to start soon with getting that project going.
So I'll just close my remarks by saying that Bristol is really becoming a model for all the other 39 towns and cities in Rhode Island. And I know that because I see the literature out there that actually singles out Bristol for some of the things that we're doing. And so we got to keep the story getting out there about what we're doing and let everybody know that we're really on the leading edge of these things. Thank you.
Town administrator, agenda items.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about infrastructure, and it's my common theme.
It's his reoccurring theme. I like this theme, though.
The ferry road was paved yesterday,
Thank God.
And I'm proud to say we were on time and within budget. So that was over a 2-year project. There were many facets to it. It was a success story there, in my mind, was showed on July 23rd. I took photos when we had a heavy rain. I went and I looked at the earthen dam that was built there with the raised storm drains, and it was protecting the wastewater treatment facility. It was working as planned, so it was really neat to see, as Councilman Aaron Lay said, how the resiliency in our projects are coming together. So we're done. We can check that one off the list. Ferry Road was paved yesterday. A few areas have to be cleaned up yet, but so I'm happy to say that. And I'll keep this brief. And thank you to the department heads and to the principals of our elementary school who invited administration and the department heads to say hello to the kids a couple of times at the schools, and it was a good way to start the day. And it's nice to see Director McBride there and everyone here, the tax assessor and harbor master. It was kind of neat, and I think the kids, it was nice to start the day like that. So I just wanted to say thank you to the school district's principals. Thank you. And that's all I have. Good night.
Mike, before you go there, I'd be remiss. Just one more is Dominic Canna passed away. Dominic Canna was 92. Dominic Canna was on the Bristol Housing Authority board of directors for, wait for it, about 45 years. So somebody who gave back a lot to Bristol, and our condolences to his family and our thank you to him. Mike.
We have 3 matters to convene to an executive session. The first being pursuant to 4246(5)(a)(1) personnel, the appointment of a town treasurer, and that matter will be heard again in public session following your executive session. The other 2 matters are both pursuant to 4246(5)(a)(2) litigation, one involving the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns and the Evergreen contract legislation, and the other being Mosaico.
Make a motion?
Yes. I heard a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.